Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to a chapter-by-chapter read-along of J.R.R. Tolkien's masterpiece, The Lord of the Rings. We are finishing up with the Fellowship of the Ring. We're working our way through the Fellowship, and we have reached another famous chapter. The Fellowship has three famous chapters, and we've already had a big one. We had the bridge at Khazad-dûm, where the leader of the Fellowship, this group of characters who are taking the One Ring to Mordor to destroy it, Gandalf the Grey, the wizard, falls into an endless chasm, fighting a mystical creature called the Balrog. Our Fellowship, as its now pro tem leader Aragorn says, must go on without hope. They still have to do what they have to do. They just have no hope now. And eventually, as they make it out of Moria, and eventually make it to the Golden Wood, to the realm of Lothlorien. And in our last chapter, they are brought from the borders of Lothlorien into the heart of the realm, which is one of the great elvish strongholds remaining in the West. There's only a handful of them. There's Círdan at the Havens. There's Elrond at Rivendell. There's King Thranduil in the woods. We don't know anything about his realm. We know barely anything about him at all, unless you read the appendices, The Lord of the Rings. And there's Lothlorien, which is ruled over by the Lady Galadriel and her husband, who they don't appear to like each other. Let's just put it that way. They don't appear to like each other. And when our heroes are finally brought before them, there's some questioning. They are questioned, they are examined, they are talked to. Galadriel also examines every one of them mentally, sifting through, tempting them, pushing at the boundaries of their loyalty and their weakness. And she pointedly tells them that, where is Gandalf? Because I can't read his thoughts, and I would know if he entered my realm. Which is two fairly good, fairly interesting admissions. One is that she can easily read the thoughts of other people, and two, that she can't do that with Gandalf. She knows that he's not with them. She knows that he did not enter Lothlorien, and they have to say he fell in Moria. And the elves of Lothlorien are grief-stricken about this. Our heroes have sort of become benumbed to it. They had to just keep moving. There was a huge orc party that was sent out from Moria, so they had no time to live in their grief. They had to just keep moving. It's only when they really get to Lothlorien that they're able to take a breath and pause and think about it, and they are not prepared for the extent of the grief that it produces in others. Nevertheless, Lothlorien is a place of healing and rest. Time doesn't seem to pass there, and it's greatly comforting. And we're told that our heroes will stay here for a while. A little bit of time, anyway, while they rest and recover, and maybe while they get a little bit more comfortable with the grief of losing Gandalf. And they do, and we have scenes like that. I mentioned one of them here where Sam, who's always wanted to see elven magic, is questioned by Frodo about that. Frodo says, "What do you think of elves now, Sam? I asked the same question before. It seems a very long while ago, but you have seen more of them since." "Indeed, I have indeed," said Sam. "And I reckon there's elves and elves. They're all elvish enough, but they're not all the same. Now these folk aren't wanderers or homeless, and seem a bit nearer to the likes of us. They seem to belong here, more even than hobbits do in the Shire. Whether they've made the land or the land's made them, it's hard to say, if you take my meaning. It's wonderfully quiet here. Nothing seems to be going on, and nobody seems to want it to. If there's any magic about, it's right down deep, where I can't lay my hands on it, in a manner of speaking." But at the close of the chapter, in one of the most famous bits of all, Sam is going to get a direct demonstration of magic, because he and Frodo are invited by Galadriel to look in the mirror of Galadriel, to look in a basin of water. She's talking with them about Lothlorien. She cautions Frodo not to be complacent, that maybe there's more going on here than you think. She tells him, "Do not be afraid, but do not think that only by singing amid the trees, nor even by the slender arrows of elven bows, is this land of Lothlorien maintained and defended against its enemy. I say to you, Frodo, that even as I speak to you, I perceive the Dark Lord and know his mind, or all of his mind that concerns the elves. And he gropes ever to see me and my thought, but still the door is closed. Another absolutely stunning statement. First, we learn that Galadriel routinely can read the minds of anyone, anywhere that she wants when she casts her thoughts on them, and also that she knows who enters her realm. But now we're told that she can read Sauron's mind, and that he can't return the favor. He can't read her mind. Astonishing. In quick succession in this chapter gives us an impression that there's much more to Galadriel than meets the eye. And Frodo, whose sight has been sharpened by bearing the ring, sees what that much more is. She is wearing one of the great rings of the Elven Kings. She's wearing Nenya, the ring of adamant, and whose particular faculty seems to be to guard against change, to be unchanging, to resist. In other words, to block the mind of Sauron from finding her or seeing her. The test that she puts them in the Mirror of Galadriel is a bit obscure, like most of Tolkien's magic. It's a bit obscure. Sam and Frodo in turn look in the Mirror of Galadriel and see things. Sam sees disaster back in the Shire. People cutting down trees, people despoiling the pure, bucolic perfection of his home. And Frodo sees the eye of Sauron. He sees the enemy. And it is clearly questing all over the land. It is clearly looking. It can't see him, but he can see it. And when this little testing is over, Frodo, quite innocently, he doesn't have any ulterior motive, decides to do a little testing of his own. He offers the ring to Galadriel. She doesn't have to take it by force. The ring bearer is offering it to her. The one ring plus her own ring of power. Gandalf has told us, Aragorn tells us, Tolkien tells us throughout this book, that the one ring, yes, it's imbued with a huge amount of Sauron's energy, and it is a baleful artifact of command. But it's only going to be rightly usable by people who already have a huge amount of power of their own. That's why it's such, for a moment anyway, it's such a danger to Sauron that Saruman might get the ring. It's, in another reality, a huge danger to Sauron that Gandalf might take the ring. Or Elrond, who certainly saw and maybe even handled the ring when he was curing Frodo in Rivendell. That's the thing to worry about. Not so much that maybe Boromir would get it, or any hobbit would get it, but that someone who already has a huge amount of power would get it, and here Frodo is offering it to Galadriel. And her rejection is famous. Is one of the most famous passages in Tolkien. I want to read it to you just for the fun of reading it out loud. Galadriel laughed with a sudden clear laugh. Wise the Lady Galadriel may be, said she, but here she has met her match in courtesy. Gently you are revenged for my testing of your heart at our first meeting. You begin to see with a keen eye. I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired to ask what you offer. For many years I have pondered what I might do should the great ring come into my hands, and behold, it was brought within my grasp. The evil that was devised so long ago works on in many ways, whether Sauron himself stands or falls. Would not that have been a noble deed to set to the credit of his ring if I had taken it by force or fear from my guest? Meaning the thought has crossed her mind to do that. And now, at last it comes. You will give me the ring freely. In place of the Dark Lord, you will set up a queen. And I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night, fair as the sea and the sun and the snow upon the mountain, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and despair. And a little bit later on, she tells Frodo that, yes, if I took the ring, of course my intentions would be good. That's always how it starts. But it wouldn't stay that way. Exactly the same thing Gandalf said back in the Shire when he is tempted. And that's it. That is the temptation of Galadriel. She will pass the test and diminish and go into the West and remain herself. Tolkien doesn't do a whole lot of explaining here. We know already that the ring is altogether evil. It wouldn't matter the intentions. And the more you know about the long, long backstory of Galadriel, the more you're glad she doesn't have the ring. More glad she doesn't have it than that Gandalf doesn't have it. That's for sure. But that ends the chapter. She tells Frodo and Sam that they must leave. Their time in Lorien is over. So that's the end of the chapter, and when the next chapter commences, our fellowship will move on. So I will wrap this up here, and we will reconvene then. Thank you.